Old Alabama Gardener. In this video, I'm showing you how I start seeds inside the house. Now today is the 20th of March, 2021, and I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour about how I sprout and grow out seeds. So the first thing we got to do is we got to go downstairs. And then when we get to the bottom of the stairs, we're going to turn and look this direction over here. Alright, so this is my seeds starting and growing them up to a certain point set up. Now I'm just get a little bit closer. So one of the things you absolutely have to have if you're going to grow seeds is a means of having light. And so this is a frame. It's a 1-inch Schedule 40 PVC for the end parts here, and a piece of chain link fence top rail for the long pieces. If you don't use that and you do use the Schedule 40, then this will sag from the weight of your light here, or the weight of plants if you get down into this area. Alright, so what we got is trays of things that have been started from seed, and we'll go over here first. Alright, so this is cabbage plants. I got 2 trays of them, so I'll show you the start date here in just a second. So here's the other tray of them. Okay. So what we got here is a cabbage called Copenhagen, market early. I started these seeds a little different. I started them in a wet paper towel in a little bag, and I'll show you that too. And I started that on the 27th of February. Well, 3 days later, on the 1st of March, they were sprouting. So I moved them into soil blocks, and that's what this is right here. And then, on the 3rd of March, another 3-4 days, the seeds were up and beginning to grow. And so now today is the 20th of March. And so you can see that I've got nice little cabbage plants coming on here. And as it warms up outside, I will be moving these into pots to grow just a little bit more before setting them in the garden. Now here's a tray of broccoli plants. And let's see what we did with those. So we started those seeds on 27th of February. But I put them directly into soil. I didn't start them in a wet paper towel and plastic bag. I went straight into the soil. So 27th of March to 27th February to 2nd of March is about 5 days, and these seeds were sprouted and coming up. Today is the 20th of March. Okay, this is a tray of yellow crookneck squash. I planted these seeds on the 10th of March. And like I said, today's the 20th of March. So you can see they're getting true leaves. That's a true leaf. True leaf on that. There's a nice big true leaf. There's another bigger, even bigger true leaf. So we're ready to pot these up and get them out into something else. Let's go around this way. Now this is a tray of tomatoes, Sweet 100, planted the seeds in a wet paper towel in a plastic bag on the 27th of February and transferred them into soil in these soil blocks here on the 7th of March. Today's the 20th of March, so these are coming along quite well. Now over here, this is okra. And I planted them directly into these soil blocks on the 7th of March. Today's the 20th of March. So they're coming along all right too. Next to them is a tray of sweet pepper or bell pepper. This variety is called California Wonder. I started the seeds in a wet paper towel in a plastic bag, 27th of February, and I transferred them into these soil blocks here on the 7th of March. And today is the 20th of March, and you can notice that plant right there, how it's got nice big true leaves already. There's another plant. True leaves are coming out really good. There's some plants back here with true leaves. Now then, on this tray, we're trying to grow sweet potato slips. This is the Japanese variety, and so there you can see sprouts coming up. So there's 1, 2, 3 back there, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like it's at least maybe eight slips coming up out of that little potato. Now there's another potato buried right in here. So let's take a look at it. And so look at there. Little sweet potato slips coming up. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's some more down there. 4, 5. One down on the bottom. 6, 7. 2 more over here. 8. And it's got a nice little root system. So we put it back into the ground and let them sprouts come on through like they normally will. Okay, this is some of the cabbage plants that I'm growing. So I want to show you what the root looks like when we do it this way. Alright, so here's the roots of the cabbage plant. And of course they're all through this block here. So they're ready to go out into the pots outside for growing on up to a further point of transplanting. So let's talk about fertilizing now. What is it that I fertilize these small plants with? What do I use, and how do I do it? So that's what I'm going to explain to you. The type of fertilizer that I use for my seedling plants is called tomato plant food. I mix it at half strength. Now you know it calls for 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. So I put a half a tablespoon in a gallon of water. So what I do is I empty the package of granular fertilizer in a jar. Because if you don't, it will start to absorb moisture and it'll get where you really don't want to use it. So I put it in a small jar like that where I can keep it airtight. That way it stays granular and ready to go. So what I've got is an old jar, a plastic jar that I mixed my fertilizer in. You notice that I got written right on there. It says Miracle Grow Tomato Food at 1/2 strength. So I need me a little funnel to get that in there. Make you a little funnel from a jar like this, from a water bottle, old water bottle. Just cut it off right there, and you got a little funnel. Now, if you put your fertilizer in here first, and you start adding your water, it's going to foam up, and you don't want that. So what you need to do is first put your water in. You see, as I'm pouring this water in there, had I put the fertilizer in there first, it would be creating foam. And then you'd have a whole bunch of foam at the top of your jar when you might think it was full with water, but it would not be. Now, when the water gets up to a point where I can see it right there, then I'm ready to put my fertilizer in. That's about a half a tablespoon, and it doesn't have to be precise and exact. So we put that in there, and now we can go ahead and fill our container up with water. Wash whatever fertilizer's in there out. And now I shake it. And now it's ready to go. So now if it was time to fertilize, pour my fertilizer water out in it. Carefully pour this around the plants. It's okay if you get some on the leaves because they feed through the leaves also. You can kind of judge by when it gets moist enough. So I've talked about the type of fertilizer that I use, showed you how I mix it, and now the question would be, how often do I fertilize? And the answer is probably about every 2 weeks, or if the plants get dry, if the soil gets dry, then I'm going to water it, of course. And so when I water it with fertilizer water. Every time I water with fertilizer water. And I grow some nice and healthy looking plants, as you can see. It doesn't hurt if the water gets on the leaves, because the leaves will absorb moisture also. Now the water I use is just plain tap water, but I'll fill these buckets up, bring them in here, and leave them sitting for about 2 days before I use any water out of it. That will allow the chlorine that's in the water to evaporate.